It's May 1983 and a colonel in the Sudanese army has been sent to quell a mutiny by a group of soldiers in the town of Bor. Instead of suppressing the mutineers, Colonel John Garang joined them, setting up the SPLA rebel movement and reigniting Sudan's civil war.
People felt it's going to be finishing, within 3 or 5 years or something like that, but going to 20 years or 20-something years, nobody was expecting that. Nobody was planning for that. But war is war, and, you can't just win it tomorrow or next tomorrow. So it was a long-term struggle.
At the time, Cholok Dut was a student in the main southern town, Juba. The renewed conflict marked the end of a decade-long truce between the largely Christian and animist south of Sudan and the mainly Muslim north.
There were some students who were very politically active, who were involved, at the underground movement. It was a big group of Southerners who were defected, and definitely we knew that that's the start of the movement.
And what did you think of that news? Did you support the idea of what John Garang was doing?
Definitely we support it. It wasn't a surprise because there are so many injustices that were taking place. People were excited, and even those who had joined the movement at the time, they were not forced to join the movement. They feel like, it was a national duty to fight. They want to fight for their country. They want to fight for their freedom.
In the southern town of Wau, Akwal Parak Machar, a mother of 9, was under no illusions about the horror of what lay ahead. She'd lived through the first round of the Civil War, which began even before independence from Britain in 1956.
I know that it was going to be horrible again, or going to be terrible, because it happened before, and I witnessed it before. When I look back to what had happened before, that war took us 17 years, and this war, it was worse than the first one, because SPLA were having their own guns, but the first war, they were not having many guns. So I said this one is going to be terrible, and it really happened.
As the war spread across South Sudan, the Southerners whom the newly formed SPLA sought to help themselves became the main victims of the conflict. The BBC carried frequent reports of the fighting.
BBC World Service at 17:09, Greenwich Mean Time. This is Chris Bickerton with Focus on Africa. Renewed fighting in southern Sudan between government forces and the rebel SPLA is having repercussions far and wide, not only in the war zone, but in neighbouring countries such as Uganda and Zaire. In the fighting, the SPLA
in Wau, Akwal Parak Machar and her family felt increasingly vulnerable, caught between the warring parties.
The government just formed a militia which used to hunt for people at night. They break in and pull people out. They disappear. Some have been killed. Some they have never found them, even their body. So we say, no, this is going to be horrible. The soldiers said that we can't control this anymore. It is better if anyone want to leave, to go to the village, wherever, you have to leave the town. I have to grab my little kids, push them in front, walking, going to the village.
So you left, and what did you leave with? What did you take with you?
Oh no, it was very bad. Took some clothes, I ground some grain flour. Those were the things I carried with me.
A Reuters reporter, Hugh Pope, was in Wau during the worst of the fighting. He was trapped there for 10 weeks. He told Focus on Africa what happened shortly after his escape from the town.
When I arrived in Wau, there was considerable passive support for the SPLA in the sense that people identified with its goals of fighting for the South against the Arab Muslim North. Then in August came 3 very brutal attacks on the town by the SPLA, in which perhaps 100 huts were burnt down and several people were killed, mostly civilians. And there was a lot of indiscriminate shooting. And people saw what happened, and then people saw heard the SPLA radio accounts of the attacks and saw that perhaps the SPLA was not the glorious movement that they had perhaps believed it was to begin with.
Whatever their concerns about the SPLA, many Southerners still believed it was fighting for them. After the war resumed, Cholok Dut left student life in Juba to return to her family in the southern town of Rumbek. But the household was soon broken up.
They start arresting even, the group of the young people who are still in the town. You'll hear tomorrow the group of these, they have been arrested. Some of them have been killed. Some of them have been kidnapped. Some of them have been tortured. So it was not easy at all. The life was so difficult. So what happened? Majority of the young people, they decided to join the SPLA. So you'll hear tomorrow and next tomorrow there are about 5, 10, 20 of them living the town, including my brothers.
One night, 3 of Cholok Dut's brothers, along with several cousins, set off to join the rebels. She had no idea of their plans.
They don't tell that you are going to war, because for a young man joining the war, to tell your mother or tell your sister, is like being a coward. So I remember there's my brothers, they, invited some of their friends, and, it was like a big party. It was a farewell party. We didn't know that it was a party, that they are leaving. So in the morning or at night time, I don't know what time they left. They took all the things, their belongings, and I don't know how did they leave. We woke up in the morning and there was no one in the house except one brother. And he was, as if was given a duty to look after the family.
One of her brothers was badly injured. Another was killed. His body was never recovered.
They were attacked and they were trying to fight back. And unfortunately, he was badly injured. So my brother said, no, I can't leave you. So he tried to struggle, tried to take him until when, he died in front of my other brother. It's so painful. My brother was telling, he was got the clothes that he had. He took his gun. It's terrible. It's terrible.
The war didn't officially end until a peace agreement in January 2005, more than 20 years after the conflict resumed. Under the deal, the South was promised a referendum on independence within 6 years. Voting takes place on January the 9th. There's no doubt that the South will vote to break away. Less certain is how the government in Khartoum will respond to the loss of a large part of the country and a large part of its oil wealth.
We want that to go smoothly. This is the cost that a lot of Southerners die for, and they're waiting to see that the country is coming out, being independent country, and people want it independent of Southern Sudan. And if it didn't go well, so definitely it's going to be another war. And another war, when our country's already been damaged so badly, I think it's not a good idea. People, they have suffered, they're really suffering. They need to rebuild themselves and they need to live a normal life. If that war happened again, it would be a complete destruction for our nation. We don't want that to happen again.